Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast, podcast about poker. I'm Ken, your host.
I guess that leaves me, Brandon, the co-host.
Are you a co-host, though? Or are you
kind of.
I'm Johnny Carson.
I knew you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say like Dave Letterman. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm older, so I like Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was like the best late night show host by far.
And then that makes me just the guest every time.
Yeah, you're Ed McMahon. You're like the publisher sweepstakes guy. You had a great career after the fact. So you're fine.
That's fine. I did have somebody come up to Oaklawn that I've never seen before. I was talking to Aaron at the bank, and he's like, "Oh, I know that voice. You're the other guy on the podcast, huh?"
Nice. Yeah, people are always surprised. They're like, "Who's Brandon?" I was like, "You guys know who Brandon is. Like, if you come to the events, you know who he is. You just didn't put two and two together."
I like that. When I used to work the bank, everybody knew me by name, and now I kind of just hide in the back, and it's kind of nice where
you upgrade.
I know everybody, but they don't know me. It's it's great.
It's like Batman.
I have the advantage. Yeah, it's like Batman. Exactly.
Exactly like Batman.
So I'm robbing on the podcast, but Batman at the events.
True. I'll give you that. True.
Okay, sweet.
I'll give you that one. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
What are we going to talk about?
Today, we're going to hit up maybe a controversial subject. I think it's something that we wanted to talk about.
Controversial.
Well, it's just that so many people.
It's polarizing.
Yeah, okay, better word. I like the idea of. All right, so we're going to talk about last outs and last longers. We're going to talk about the differences between them, what actually qualifies as a last out, last longer, why you should, pros and cons, right? There are some cons. We'll do some pros and cons lists, Brandon and I's personal experience with them, and ultimately I think we endorse the idea of last outs, but you do have to have some precautions in place, right?
Yes.
So let's just start out simply. What is a last out? Is there a difference between last out and last longer?
It's nice that you ask me these questions.
I know that
I just know the answers.
Right, like I'm just supposed to throw it out there, and then you're supposed to tell us. Right.
You're like setting me up, and I got it all hit a home run. It's like the home run derby. You're just throwing pitches right down the middle.
In there.
Yeah.
You just got to swing.
Yeah. Yes, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
That difference being a last out. This is obviously talking about re-entry tournaments. If the tournament is a shootout or a freeze out, then there is no difference, right?
Quick stoppage of play here. TV timeout. Podcast timeout.
Okay.
Dude, they call it shootouts anymore? I don't think that they do, right? Like shootouts is a little bit different. I guess it's like
shootout is like it's all sit and goes, right? You got to win your table, then all the winners play. I didn't mean shootout. I meant freeze out.
You meant freeze out. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I instantly corrected myself. But thank you for sure letting everybody know.
Okay, untimeout. Back to last outs.
So, assuming that there's re-entries and rebuys in the tournament, a last out, if you are eliminated from the tournament, and you went back into the last outs, you need to repurchase them. So you go up, you buy your seat. In addition to buying your seat, you have to get back into the last outs.
Right, because the last out is a one and done, meaning you're only paying for the last out if you manage to be the last man or woman standing in the tournament that's left
that bullet.
on that bullet in the last outs. Now, it's funny because sometimes with last outs, I don't want to get too far into it until we kind of describe what exactly both are, but there's times when like first place money is not as much as what the last outs are, or it kind of gets notable at the end there because you're trying to figure out who's left and who's not. And it's like a tournament inside of a tournament
structure, right? It's winner take all.
Correct.
So that's why. I mean, if there's 30 people in $100 last out, I mean that's $3,000 for whoever's last standing. And $0 for the second to last standing, which is why chops happen a lot. But it's because there's no payout structure. That's why the last outs really juice it up if you excel in that particular tournament.
All right, so a last out is where you play the $20 early bird tournament, both of which happen at CCG and Paramount, so this applies to both. They don't do last outs or last longers in Paramount yet, but it is something I'd like them to start implementing, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But last out, as it pertains to the early bird tournament, is you pay for your $20 seat, and then they'll say, oh, do you want to get in the last outs? I do. What do you got going? 5, 10, 20. That's pretty standard for the bird, right?
Yep.
And you can get in one of the last outs, all of the last outs, one or two of them. You can get in the 5 and the 10. You could do 10-20. You could just get in the 20. You could just get in the 5. You can get in the 5 and the 20, which would be weird, but that's fine. You could do that as well.
You just basically just hit all the combinations.
I tried to make sure I got all of them, but that's all of them. But now the problem is, let's say you get into all of them, right? So you pay your $20 seat, and then you do the $5 add-on, and then you do the 5, the 10, and the $20 last out. So now you're up for $35 on that end. And then you brick, you get aces, and you get busted by some mop who plays ace queen, and then 4 flushes you after you got it all in pre-flop, and he says, oh, I'm drawing dead. And I go, no, that's not true. And then 2 diamonds on the board, turns a diamond, rivers a diamond. And then the other guy at the table, when we're playing four-handed in Elgin, he goes, oh, man, I folded 2 diamonds, and then pulls his 2 cards out of the muck and shows that he's got diamonds as well. So it was like a total kick in the nuts that I got third in the hand out of 4 fucking people with aces. And I got it all in pre-flop. It was great. I'm not bitter at all.
So, yeah, it doesn't sound like you're bitter.
Right. If that was a tournament and I did that, what happens because it's a last out? If I want to go back and buy another seat.
You go back up to the bank, and now you're eliminated from everything, and you have to rebuy your $25 seat, and then you are still not in the 5, 10, and 20, so you'd have to re-enter those 5,
Correct.
10, and 20.
And it's not like you're in until if you brick, that's it. You're out. You got to go back and get another seat, and then you got to re-up to get back into the last outs, which is funny because I heard Liam say, shout out to little Liam. He's like a little senator now. He wears like suits and stuff to CCG. It's great.
He's basically a poker ambassador.
He is. He's the ambassador of poker from CCG. So like if he goes to other places to play, like he's the guy as the ambassador of CCG. It's great. But anyways,
also I need to tell this little side story.
Hold on, I got to my Liam story, and then you can jump in.
Go ahead.
So Liam is in the $100 last out of the deep stack in Warrenville, which has 12 people in it, 10 or 12 people in it, and he is in for 5 of those bullets. 5 of those 12 people is Liam. He was like, yeah, basically got to win the last out to break even. Because, again, when you get knocked out of the tournament, if you get back in, which is great, you got to either get back in the last outs or don't. And it's one of those things you got to do before you start. You can't play and decide after you play a few hands. Like, it's one of those things you do before the start of the tournament or before you actually sit down to play your tournament.
Yeah.
What was your story you were going to tell?
My little Liam story was he's just such a poker ambassador. There was one time, end of the night CCG, a brand new player put chips in his pockets while moving over to the final table of the deep stack.
Huge no-no.
And we took those chips out of play and was like, sorry, man. He was really cool about it, and then just started shoving every hand because he was kind of tilted.
Right.
Obviously, he puts his 5Ks and 1Ks in his pocket and carries over his 100 and 500 chips like a smart man. So anyways, and Liam just took it so personal and hard on him. So he was like, I've been running around on this tournament all day. He's like, how could I not have told him not to put those in his pocket? Like, he was like upset for the guy that he did.
He was more upset than the other guy.
He was. He's like, I can't believe I didn't tell him that. Like, I'm sorry, man. And the guy's like, no, really, man. I don't really even know you. It's okay, dude.
Yeah, you don't need to feel bad. It's like, but I do. I feel bad. All right, so that's last outs. That's pretty standard. It's something that happens at a lot of poker tournaments. We'll get into that after we do the kind of last longer. What is it? So you got last out, and then they also call it a last longer. By definition, last longer means...
you're lasting longer.
You jump in here.
I don't really know.
Ooh, that was my eBay notification. Oh, come on, eBay.
Something sell?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Putter cover.
Hopefully it was enough.
Right,
Anyways,
that is on the podcast too.
You're in there. You pay your one-time fee. It's
one
like
and done.
Addition to one and done. And whether you fire 12 bullets, 1 bullet, 19 bullets, 2 bullets, you are in on those last outs. So it's cheaper. Which I guess if we're getting right into the pros and cons, we don't really need to beat this like a dead horse. You're in there. So you buy your $100 seat, you get in the 10, 20, 50. You're in for 180.
It's a last out, except you can fire as many bullets in the tournament and continue to stay in the last longer. Now, typically, we don't do any last longers unless it's a multi-day tournament, meaning there's several flights because it's too hard to track and it's easier that way just to do it. Plus, I think it entices players to play more, which we'll talk about when we do the pros and cons ideas. But it's basically a last out, except placate that to the bird, the exact story we just told. My aces get cracked. I go back and buy another seat in the early bird, go back and sit down. If it was a last longer, I wouldn't have to get back in. I'm in until the tournament's over.
Yep.
So if I enter the tournament 5 times and Brandon only enters the tournament once, we're each paying the same amount for last out money or last longer money, depending on which one you're doing.
Correct.
So it's pretty cool. I voting yes or no, if people ask about last outs or last longers, and no matter where you are, do you always say yes? Do you always say no? Does it depend on the situation?
I'm usually in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually in too. What the main reason to get in a last out, which is the most common, because then it's like a one and done. Last outs are great because they're unraked and it's just added money to the prize pool. And it's like a tournament inside a tournament, because if you're playing at WSOP and there's 600 people in the tournament and you got like your 20 or 30 person like last out, it's pretty cool because
you could not even cash the tournament.
You cannot even cash the tournament and still win money.
Win the last time.
Yep, which is great.
And that happens all the time at CCG in like the $120 deep stack. I mean, if we get a $100 or $200 last out, sometimes it's 4 guys.
Right.
And then, by, an hour after break, which is 9:30 and the tournament started at 6:30, there might only be one of those guys standing and they get the 800. I mean, they're already, they profited 700 right there off that last out.
Correct.
And they ain't even close to the money.
No.
The money's 2 hours away.
Right. Which
so,
is great.
I mean, some guys prefer the big buy-in, small field type last outs, like the 500 last out where there's 3 guys in it. It's like, well, I can pocket a quick 1,000 here if I just beat these 2 guys.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So, I mean, I obviously, if we're just getting in, I prefer the last outs a lot more than the last longers, just because it punishes the people that want to buy in 12 times. And if you're going to buy in 12 times and go loosey-goosey Jordan style until you get a chip lead stack, then you should be paying for it.
Right. You should be paying extra. You should be paying for each one of those seats.
You're re-upping it. Like Liam, he paid 5 times and now he's in for 5 of the 1,200. Well, you did that to yourself.
Right.
But I wouldn't say it's not unfair in the last longer, but like if you are only going to fire 1 or 2 bullets, you much prefer a last out.
Correct.
Compared to the guys that are like, I'm here for 11 bullets. I don't really give a crap. I'm just going to go until I have the chip lead or I run out of times to buy in. Well, then you're going to prefer a last longer.
And those numbers depend on, I mean, it's always relative, right? Like some guys like, early bird, I'll buy 5 seats too, but the deep stack, I'm only going to buy 1 seat into.
Correct.
Right? It's the same price. It's just, different thought process. And again, I agree. It's hard to want to do a last longer where you're in for 1 and you can fire as many bullets as you want in the tournament and still be in that last longer envelope. For a guy that's playing, like if I'm going to play like $1,000 tournament, like a MSPT or something, right? It's an $1,100 buy-in. I'm not going to fire 3 or 4 bullets. It's like a one-time deal and that's it. I
maybe twice if you get
2 would be
really
if I got exactly, but I don't plan on getting in multiple times. So at that point, I would much prefer play a last out. Negatives of the last out versus the last longer. If you're playing somewhere where somebody's not monitoring who's buying in and who's not, it can sometimes be a little tougher to. You run the risk of not knowing 100%.
Bullet, or we don't know how many bullets he's on because he keeps firing. Is he still in the last out? Did he pay for all 6 of those? Did he only pay for 4 of them?
Right.
Did he get carried over really quickly? That is definitely the big negative of a last out is the monitoring side, which is why, some places are better than other places to do last outs at.
Right. So that's why sometimes the last longer is not a terrible idea because you don't have to worry about how many times you go in. So, tit for tat, there's good things and bad things about both sides of the coin. I just would say most people want to play the last out and you just kind of hope for the best.
Right. Or you go to a place like CCG where it's going to be monitored well and, everybody's double checking and, it's very transparent and it's up on a board and everybody can see it. And
it's also it's going to be a smaller field, and it's people that a little bit more, right? Even a new guy, you're trying to monitor 30 people versus going into the WSOP where there's 600 to 700 people. That's a hell of a lot harder to.
I mean, that Colossus that Ben Keyline won, they had a $1,000 last out with like 1,000 people in it.
Jesus, see, like that.
And it's only a $500 buy-in.
Wow. Wow.
So that was pretty crazy.
That's huge. Yeah. That's like the ultimate side bet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, like, it was like 3 people at the final table. So like you basically had to win the tournament to win the last out. But it's like, it's pretty gross that, that they can organize something that big. And it was with spreadsheets and everybody had to report their table number. And if they rebought the next day, they had to, everything was like double, triple checked. Like, I hope the organizer took 5% for himself, or somebody tipped him when he paid out 100,000 that he collected $1,000 from 1,000 guys. I think that mess, right?
And did all of that work, because that's the other problem. It's all fine and dandy when it's like, all right, we're all in the tournament and we all expect to make it to the final table and win the thing. But like, what if you get busted and you're like the guy holding the money? Like, that's a huge
$1 million
job.
What's 1,000 times 1,000?
I don't know. I was trying to do that math. Well, 1,000 times 100 is 100,000.
Right?
So
a million.
How do that might be the threshold of my comfort level to give some random guy $1 million.
Now, I think it might have actually. Now that I think about it, it might have been a $500 last out, but still, it's 500,000. Like, it's disgusting.
Crazy. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But now, if we're just going, it is pretty crazy. But now, if we're just going to go in pros and cons, I mean, if you're going to look at this from like a rake standpoint, like, it's amazing. Like, obviously, you're going to tip the guy at the end that does the job and holds the money and organizes it, and sure. But like, that's a tip. You don't count that as rake. I mean, you can walk into CCG, play $120 buy-in, which is $100 to the prize pool, $20 in rake, and now you're getting juiced 1/6. But now you buy into the 100, the 50, the 20, and the 10. That's another 180. Now it's a 280 plus 20. Now you're getting raked 1/15. I don't know what that's like 6 or 7% or something like that. So, you cut your rake way down if you're cost averaging it. Like, all of a sudden,
sure.
A 280 plus 20 sounds like a Value Town USA. I want to play that tournament every day.
Every day. That's like full tilt type rake, Like the old days when you're playing on the internet.
Oh, yeah. When you're just, absolutely.
You seem to be slightly confused when I said full tilt, but you played full tilt.
No, I knew what you were saying.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
how could you tell that if I'm confused? I'm 70 miles away from you talking over a cell
phone. That is, I think, a huge benefit is the fact that you're putting extra money into the prize pool and none of it is getting taken by the casino, by the charity, by whatever the case. Like, that's amazing. Again, if you're planning on getting in all of those last outs, like, the cost average is phenomenal. And it's a slightly smaller prize pool. It's a subsect of the tournament, which means you don't even have to beat the entire tournament to win money. I mean, if there's, on an average, 40-person deep stack at CCG, you're probably going to get maybe top 8 to 10 players play the 100, right?
Yeah.
So now
I would say about 10 in the 100 and probably about those same 10 in the 50, because usually the people that do the 100 also do the 50.
Correct.
Which, if we can talk about my pet peeves, I shouldn't say I couldn't stand. I never get the logic in the guy that's just like whips out a 50 and is like, just put me in the 50. I'm like, bro, there's 4 guys in the 50, there's 16 guys in the 20, and 40 guys in the 10. Like, why are you not just putting that 50 towards the 20 and 10? And I get their logic, they only want to beat 3 guys, but it always confuses me when they just like pick a random one when there's like smaller ones in there to do. If that makes sense. Like, if you're going to spend 50, why don't you just spend 80 and get in the 50 and the 20 and the 10? Like, you're trying to win the tournament no matter what.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't understand if there are.
You sound confused there now.
No. I was looking at something else.
Okay.
It's the idea of, if there's a 5, a 10, and a 50, like, just get in all 3. Like, there's no reason not to get in all 3. If you're gonna do one, do all 3.
Well, I can see if we just want to do the 5, or just do the 5 and the 10. But like, who does the 10 and not the 5? It's like, come on, dude. Like, come on, just pony up the extra $5. Which also, I feel like, if we're just getting into this part of the podcast now, why do people not do it? And this is a question for you, because I actually don't know. Like, is it because they're scared? They don't really know what it is?
I mean, that's the point of this episode, is to make people comfortable and understand what a last out is and why it's beneficial. I mean, one, it's protected in the sense of you don't have to worry about, like, that there was really 12 guys who bought in and only 10 in the like, that's not going to happen. It's much, much easier at smaller type events like this, like CCG and hopefully at Paramount. And, the negative parts of being such a a 500 person or 1,000 person $500. I don't know 998 of the other players in it. I have no idea. It's like you're kind of
you don't even know who the guy is who's running.
No, you're just kind of hoping and giving some random stranger $500 and hope it's cool. Like, I understand that logic, and for me, that's a comfort level that I'm not comfortable with.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But like, everybody should do the $5 and the $10 last outs in the early bird. Like, it's great. Like, it's free money. It's free money, is what it is. If you play well in the tournament, and you don't even have to get to the five, it doesn't irk me. I shouldn't say irk, but I always get this look of shock on people's faces when I'm like, all right, who's in the $20 last out? Like, I'll just be randomly asking because somebody asked me to check on them. Be like, all right, who's still in the 20? Show of hands. And two guys show. And what do they always do at that point? Final table of the early bird, two guys left in the 20. There were 30-something guys. Yeah, chop it up. Chop it up. $200 each, $150 each, $300 each, whatever it is. Great. Now, those guys are basically getting top-end money, and they haven't even played the final table yet. They're legit free rolling.
Right.
And then you still get like, okay, who's left in the 10? Now there's 4 guys left in the 10. And then the 2 other guys who got in this scenario are thinking, why the hell did I get in the 5 too? Like, I could have done that as well. And then the 2 guys that were in the 5 that already chopped it up, they're like, chop it 4 ways? They're like, yeah, shit. Chop it 4 ways. It's like an extra $80 each. So like, everybody starts doing this because it's like you're hedging your bets at that point. Like, when you get to the final table,
you made it far enough. You're fine with that little extra.
I want to get something. It's like right before the bubble of the real money bubble tournament. Like, it's great. Like, there's no reason not to do it. 100%. I endorse.
Especially me too, and especially in the early bird. Like,
yeah,
you don't be scared. Like, it's $5-10 extra dollars. Like, my thing is, you drove to the place to think that you're going to win a $20 tournament.
Right.
Like, be confident in yourself and pony up that extra $15.
Right.
And even if you bust 3 times, or
and
people
again,
we never talked about this.
You and I don't benefit from this. Like, this is just good poker knowledge. Like, I don't get anything from the last out.
Correct.
Nobody gets it either. The only people who get anything from the last out are the players who are in the last out. Right. Like, it's great.
And also, if you say, like, I come with 3 bullets in the early bird, and I don't want to rebuy into because it's a last out. I don't want to rebuy into all the last outs 3 times. Well, then just say, okay, I'm going to do the last outs if I get to my 3rd bullet then, because this is my last bullet. Like, you can do that, not enter them,
sure,
and then rebuy, and then not enter them, and then rebuy, and okay, now I want in them. I mean, you run the risk of running up your first stack, which you hope to do, and then you're not in them. But like, you can do it that way. Like, say, all right, I'm ready to get in them now. This is my last bullet. I want to get into the last outs. Like, it's only good things can happen with the last outs. I mean, nothing is worse than shipping a tournament and thinking about all the lost money that you could have gotten in for that extra $35 at the beginning of the tournament, or that extra $80 if you get in the 50, the 20, the 10, and the $100 deep stack.
Yep.
And it's almost a double up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, there's a lot of advantages, a lot of pros to the last out sector of the tournaments. And I think so. Don't be turned off by it.
I'll tell my last out story, and I was a little. I can't even believe I did this. The first time the WSOP played at the Horseshoe in Hammond, they did a $2,500 PLO event. $2,500 straight. I assume it was a re-entry, but it might have been a freeze out. I'm not 100% sure. But at $2,500, I was not planning on buying in this thing twice. If I bricked,
it was a freeze out for you, no matter what.
It didn't matter what the structure was. I was not buying into this tournament twice. Like, this was all my eggs in one basket. I wasn't playing anything else. This was like my one shot. That was
I'm
it.
going to drive there for this tournament. Play
Eminem. I listened to Eminem on the way. Like, I had Mom Spaghetti on my sweatshirt, getting there. Like, I was ready to rock and roll on this tournament, and I played fire. I played great.
Mom Spaghetti.
Yeah. I believe there was about 40 players in it, so it wasn't a huge tournament. They've never done it since.
That's still a $100,000 prize pool.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's like one of those things. You're putting in extra money. $2,500 is a huge end of what I'm comfortable playing at. That's probably outside that realm, but whatever. I wanted to give it a shot. It was great. And then, of course, we're all sitting down. The tournament's starting. It's like the only PLO tournament I've ever played in where people were there for the first level because it was a $2,500 buy-in. Like, it just everybody was there at the start. Like there was
you want to play the start.
You want to play the whole thing, right? Because it was big enough buy-in where even like the super G-Gens were there early and not coming super late.
5-second side story. Guys, always play at the beginning of the tournaments. Yes. Why? Because the fish and the worst players in the tournament have the most chips that they're ever going to have.
Yep.
When the tournament starts. You get there an hour late, 6 of those fish are already dumped off to the pros.
Yep.
And hopefully they reball it, but maybe they're not. They're on the highway home.
Yep.
Well, you are entering the tournament, and now the pro has double the chips to you, and it's like, good luck.
Right.
And 80% of the fish are never going to have more than starting stack ever in a tournament.
Right.
So get that action early. Early bird gets the worm. It's kind of true.
It's a huge tip. Yeah. And it's something I feel like poker players,
you should do, but you don't do.
Yeah, most poker players just come super late. They're like, when's late registration? They didn't even ask the start of the tournament. What time's deep stack start? 6:30. When's late reg? 8:30. Cool. I'll see you at 8:15.
Yep.
Like why? I like playing the early levels. You could play differently. You could do different stuff. I don't feel bad when I have to pee.
But yeah.
What is it?
Some people like value their time. I don't value my time.
I don't value my time at all.
Yeah, it's worth negative money to me.
Right. What's the difference? You're paying for a tournament. Get some of those free hands in there and see what people are doing. So, anyways, back to 2009, 10?
2009, yeah, probably.
Oof. It was a long time ago.
Simple days.
2,500. We sit down. Everybody's playing. It's me and a lot of European guys because it's PLO. This is kind of pre-PLO boom. Like now, I feel like a lot more people play Pot Limit Omaha, whereas before it was like a definitely a different game, right? Like
it's more of like a D-Gen action game.
Yeah, and it was like
kind of like what Short Deck is now.
Correct. Yeah, the game's always kind of shifting on what kind of players they're encompassing. Not nearly as regular as it is now. So, anyways, playing PLO, and this guy comes around, and they're doing $1,000 last out. I literally only brought, I think. I had to like go to the ATM to make sure I had enough for this last out. And the guy's like, dude, you new player, you want to play $1,000 last out? And I was like, well, and I knew what a last out was, but I was not prepared to do this. And he was like, yes, there's like 15, 20 guys in last out. And I was like, all right, fuck it. I just give $1,000 to this random European Russian guy, which in every movie I've ever watched, it never ends well. When good guy American gives a random Russian guy in the 80s anything, like you're screwed. Yeah. If Rocky IV has taught me anything until the end of the movie, and then I realized, I was like, ooh, well,
you ain't getting that money back.
This seems shady. And then I was like, wait, the end of Rocky IV, they were buddies and it was fine and the world was better. So I'm going to go with Rocky IV end of the movie and be like, yes, here you go, sir. Here's my $1,000. Please don't just steal it and run away. And that was it. I didn't see him again. I never saw him again. And then we get down to the final table, and which I got to. And being that there was only like 40-something players, I think they paid out like top 3 or 4. 3? I think they only paid out the top 3, which is gross.
Okay.
And anyways, we're down to 5 players, so it's like right before the bubble, and people are starting to talk about it. And obviously, all 5 of us are in the last out, which I think was like 20 players deep. So, I mean, it's 20 grand. And I think the 5-way chop at that point was like 15,000, including the last out. Like, it was crazy. And I ended up bubbling and getting nothing because one guy was like, no, I don't want to do it. And then I busted to him, and then they chopped it 4 ways.
That sucks.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, if I can trust some random stranger to give $1,000 to, like, do it. I mean, because that would have been huge because that money alone, like, doubled. I mean, it made it worth so much more at that point.
It was like worth first place money was the same as the last outs, but you only had to pay $1,000 extra.
Correct.
To double up your first place money.
Yeah, I want to say first place in that tournament was like 27 or 29,000.
Yeah, I was about to say
probably makes sense. If they're paying out 4 spots, it's probably and it it had to been like 30K somewhere in there. And don't check my math here, but
yeah, definitely more than that. But we'll go with that.
Yeah, but I mean, there was 20K in the last out. So I mean, like if you got down to 2 guys, I mean, you're getting an extra 15. It's more than. I mean, it's like second place money, third place money.
Second place money getting added, and all you have to do is beat 15 guys and pay $1,000,
correct,
as opposed to paying $2,500 and getting second out of 40.
Correct.
And a lot easier.
last outs are not controlled by the casino. So if we decided to chop the last outs, like that would have been fine too. Like,
right. And now you're talking, you don't have to go through the casino and, taxes and that kind of stuff and all,
right.
You're just divvying that money up amongst yourselves, and
great.
You can pay taxes on it if you want, but
ripping it down on a blackjack table.
Yep.
That's my one pro. Last out. I always get in the last outs now. Like, it's great.
Yep. I think it's great value. It's fun, and I think people get a little scared as that they don't want to play the tournament inside the tournament. But 90% of the time, you're just playing to win the real tournament. There's some situations that arise where you're in a $500 last out. There's only 4 dudes, 2 of them are out. The other guy's short stack. You have a real stack. Well, now maybe you don't want to. You're going to play a little tighter than you want to maybe see if that guy's going to bust or double.
So that
up.
is
sure, but that's small little sections of this huge.
You're
tournament.
probably down to the last 2 tables anyways. And in all honesty, if you get aces and the guy goes all in front of you, you're really going to look over the other guy's stack and see what it is?
No, you're still playing your tournament.
You're still playing you. I don't think there's any kind of
maybe you're going to fold ace 9 offsuit on the button where you would open it if the guy was out, but not, or once the guy busts and you win that 2,000, you're opening ace 9 offsuit on the button. Right. But because he's short, you're just going to muck it. Sure, that kind of stuff, but that's those are borderline plays, anyways. You know what I mean?
True.
You're just going to take the safer route on some borderline plays, which is not really a bad thing.
No. I think there is zero reasons. There are no good reasons to not get into the last out, the last longers. You should 100% do it. Do at least one. Play the $5. It's $5.
The big red flag is the person controlling it. If you trust that situation of it, then everything else is great.
And if you're nervous about it, then, hey, maybe you can get a guy to vouch for a guy. Like, typically, I guarantee in that WSOP, everybody's 6 degrees of separation. This is, if I was playing and the only guy I knew was Ben, he was just like, oh, yeah, Billy's cool. He's fine. Give him the 500. It's no big deal. Whatever. It is what it is. And yes, that's probably a much more dangerous level than playing a $20 early bird and putting in a $5 last out. Not really a significant risk factor there, right? But 30 of the 50 players in the tournament get into it. That's a nice little prize pool. It's legit. Fully endorsed.
I 100% agree. Endorse last outs.
The lower the buy-in, you should 100% be playing in the last outs, because all it is free, unraked prize pool against less players. Hey, let's do this. Hey, could you want to do a rake free bet? Imagine the casino saying this. Hey, let's do a raked free bet with less players in the tournament that you can do whatever you want with when you get down to 1 or 2 or 3 players. Because a lot of people don't always know, Manoli being one of them, that the casino will not facilitate a chop in a tournament.
Yes.
They will not facilitate it. Somebody's taking first place money, somebody's taking second place money, and somebody's taking third place money. If the last 3 guys go on a dinner break and they go, hey, we're just going to chop it up, and play for $800, $1,000, just chop it up now. I mean, they know it happens, but they're not going to help you do it, because I guess
they're still going to fill out a tax form for the guy's name that got first and second and third, and you guys got, this guy got paid first money, and here's his tax form. Go do whatever you want with it.
So this is how
if you give third place $5,000, cool, but that's not on us. We gave you your right amount of money. You're out of there.
Right. Which is weird, because again, that's something you have to trust and kind of see how it goes. I mean, can you imagine playing the Colossus and chopping it with the last guy, and you're talking about $1 million worth of payouts? But how do you even do that? It's crazy. But anyways, that's what happens. So the whole point of that is that last outs are significantly better. You don't have to worry about that, and there's no reason that you should be playing this or should not be playing this, because it's free, it's fun, it's easy. Make sure you come up to Brandon or myself and ask about a last out. Or if you're even don't want to trust us, you're probably not listening to this podcast, so I guess that doesn't matter. But let's say you happen to listen to the podcast on accident and you don't trust Ken and Brandon, try talking to another player that gets in all the time. The regular players.
Talk to Liam.
Liam, perfect example. Amy, perfect example. Ryan, Vape Brian.
Yeah, Brian McBride. I don't know if we're doing last names, but yeah.
And then anybody who's there that plays all the time, just ask another player, hey, what's the deal with that? And they're going to be like, yeah, it's great. 100% to it. Like, there's no reason not to do it. That's it. That's all I got on last outs. My last out.
I got a last out pet peeve, and I don't want this to deter people away from the last outs. But as the last out coordinator, walking over to the first table offering last outs, or the guy registering who's the ninth person in the tournament to register, asking how many people are in the last outs before you enter, probably not the best thing to do. Like, there's nothing worse than going over to the first table. Hey, anybody interested in the $10-$20 last out? And the guy's like, well, how many are in it? I'm like, well, nobody right now, because I'm just asking you guys, like, would you like to be in it? Like, it's kind of one of those things where I understand there's
do it or
500
don't.
or 1,000. You're in it or you're not. Like, there's going to be however many people are in it, whether you're in it or not. There's going to be 19 guys or 18 guys. Like, I don't know how many people are going to get in it. There's 2 hours of late reg. I have to ask 5 more tables. It depends on if some of the DGens show up tonight or not. A lot of it varies. So, like, you either want to be in or you don't. Obviously asking how many people are in it when you're in it, and like staying on top of it and like kind of monitoring the situation. 100% legit. That's part of the organizer's job, to inform you guys, make sure everything's up to date, yada, yada, yada. Transparency. But don't ask when you're the first table how many people are in it. Well, there's one guy in it, but I got to ask 50 more people. So, right. And then he's like, all right, skip me for now. And then I go around, I'm like, last call. And he's like, how many people are in it now? I'm like, 41. He's like, okay, I'll get in it. It's like, well, yeah, there was going to be 41 regardless. So just a little pro tip from Brandon. But besides that,
it's pretty easy.
It is. And the early bird, I mean, honestly, every early bird player, if you're listening, get in that 5 and 10. It's a 15 plus 5. You turn that into a 30 plus 5 by just giving 15 extra unraked dollars. I mean, it's Value Town USA.
Value Town USA, Mayor Brandon.
Yep.
Alderman Ken. I don't know. It's just city councilman.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going on.
I don't even know what are left.
Cut it. Can we just mute this last minute and just cut it?
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check us out in Chicago at CCG or at Paramount Social Club in Houston. Brandon and I are still planning a trip down to Houston sometime soon. We promise to give you guys some
Vegas in October.
Oh, yeah. October. We're hoping for some WWWSOPPs.
Also, I think little low key, we're going to run one of those flip and goes at CCG at some point.
Oh, the flip and go's great. Flip and go's.
Yeah. We're going to run one of those. We talked about that in our WSOP schedule episode. I don't know. I'm just guessing 48, somewhere along there.
It's a pretty good guess. 49.
Yeah. Oof. 49.
Pretty good.
Sweet.
Well, thanks for listening. Check us out on the, what are we on social media? Twitter. At The Overlay Pod. Hit us up on Twitter. Check us out at one of the 2 events in Chicago or at Paramount. Other than that, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening. Brandon, lead us out.
Farewell. Getting those last outs, guys.
Yeah, last outs are legit. Get in there. Bye, everybody.